right, it's 12:08. Here's a live look at the doors in the Manhattan courthouse. Right now, the jury is deliberating in former President Donald Trump's historic criminal trial. This afternoon, CBS reporter Michael George is outside of the courthouse, where the former president could become the first former president ever convicted of a crime.
The fate of former President Donald Trump is now in the hands of a New York City jury. Judge Juan Merchan began the day by issuing crucial instructions to the jurors, laying out the legal issues they must consider and the conclusions they must reach to find Trump guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Normally, jury instructions may or may not be that influential in jury decision making, but this is a fairly unusual case.
The presumptive Republican presidential nominee is facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Prosecutors contend he tried to conceal a repayment to his former fixer, Michael Cohen, for $130,000 in hush money paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Deliberations come on the heels of Tuesday's marathon closing arguments, which stretched into the evening.
Okay, so this is explosive. A federal judge just publicly accused Donald Trump of manipulating witnesses in open court. In front of everyone, Judge Ingram looked directly at Trump and said his team had crossed the line, that there's evidence of coded messages to witnesses, indirect threats, financial incentives designed to keep witnesses from testifying truthfully. And the judge made clear this isn't just misconduct. This is obstruction of justice, a serious felony that carries up to 20 years in prison per count. And Trump potentially faces multiple counts. The courtroom erupted when the judge made these accusations, gasps from spectators, Trump's lawyers scrambling, prosecutors standing up to demand immediate action, because witness tampering is one of the most serious crimes you can commit. It goes to the heart of the justice system. If defendants can manipulate witnesses, if they can threaten or bribe people to change their testimony, then trials become meaningless. Truth becomes impossible to find. Justice fails. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Legal experts say the jurors have a lot to digest.
I think it's clear these business records were falsified. The devil's going to be in the details. What does it mean to cause that falsification? What was Trump's level of knowledge and intent?
Tensions flared at one point during closing arguments when lead defense attorney Todd Blanche told the jurors, "You cannot send somebody to prison based upon the words of Michael Cohen." That enraged the judge, who clarified a prison sentence is not required in this case, even if Trump is convicted. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
And that's exactly what Judge Ingram is accusing Trump of doing, using his power, his money, his influence to manipulate witnesses, to ensure they don't tell the truth, to protect himself from accountability by corrupting the people who could testify against him. The judge's warning to Trump was stark. I hope I don't have to consider excluding you from the trial. Think about what that means. The judge is saying that if Trump continues manipulating witnesses, he might be banned from his own trial, might be forced to sit in a cell while the trial proceeds without him. That's an extreme measure. Judges almost never exclude defendants from trials. But when defendants actively obstruct justice by tampering with witnesses, judges have that power, and Judge Ingram is making clear she's prepared to use it. The specific evidence of witness tampering is damning. According to legal filings and investigative reporting, Trump's team has been using intermediaries, people who aren't directly connected to Trump but who carry messages to witnesses. Those messages include threats, coded language warning witnesses about what might happen if they cooperate with prosecutors, what might happen to their careers, their reputations, their freedom. The messages also include financial incentives, offers to pay legal fees for witnesses who stay loyal, promises of future employment, money transferred to witnesses' accounts at suspiciously convenient times right before they're scheduled to testify, right after they give testimony favorable to Trump. All of this is documented. Bank records, communications, testimony from witnesses who've reported the tampering to prosecutors, and the judge has seen the evidence. That's why she made the accusation in open court. She's not speculating. She has proof. The judge characterized this as not casual misconduct, but a formal violation in open court. That language is significant because it distinguishes between minor procedural violations and serious criminal conduct. The judge is saying Trump didn't just make a mistake. He didn't just have a lawyer accidentally say something inappropriate. He engaged in a systematic campaign to manipulate witnesses. And he did it knowing it was illegal. That's criminal intent. That's obstruction of justice. Prosecutors are arguing that the tampering constitutes multiple felony counts. Each witness who was threatened or bribed is a separate count. Each communication designed to manipulate testimony is potentially another count, and each count carries up to 20 years in prison. If Trump is charged and convicted on multiple counts, he could be facing decades in prison, maybe even life imprisonment given the number and seriousness of the alleged violations. Legal analysts are stunned by how brazen the tampering appears to be. Usually when defendants try to manipulate witnesses, they're subtle about it. They use intermediaries who are hard to trace. They communicate in ways that are difficult to prove. But Trump's operation, according to the evidence, was relatively obvious messages that clearly referenced specific testimony, payments that coincided with testimony dates, threats that were barely coded. It's almost like Trump didn't think he'd get caught or didn't think it mattered if he got caught. The connection to Trump's pattern of using pardons to reward loyalty is relevant because prosecutors are arguing this isn't just about current witness tampering. It's about a long-standing pattern. Trump pardoned people like Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, people who faced serious criminal charges but stayed loyal to Trump, people who didn't cooperate with investigators. And those pardons send a message to other potential witnesses. Stay loyal and you'll be protected. Cooperate with prosecutors and you're on your own. That pattern of using pardons to influence witness behavior is itself potentially obstruction of justice. And now Trump is allegedly taking it further, not just dangling pardons, actually paying witnesses, actually threatening them, actually engaging in direct witness manipulation that's clearly illegal. Judge Ingram has ruled that penalties and the risk of immediate conviction will be fast-tracked. That means Trump won't get months or years to fight these charges. The judge is moving quickly, imposing consequences, making clear that witness tampering won't be tolerated. And if the evidence proves Trump did what he's accused of, conviction could come swiftly. Sentencing could follow immediately, and Trump could go to prison for decades. This is Trump's nightmare. Being caught red-handed in the middle of committing a crime, having a judge call him out publicly, facing immediate consequences with no way to delay or escape. And the courtroom chaos reflects everyone understanding how serious this is, how much legal jeopardy Trump is in, how this could be the thing that finally brings him down. All right, so let's dig into exactly what witness tampering is, what evidence exists that Trump did it, and why it's such a serious crime that could result in immediate conviction and decades in prison. Witness tampering is defined as intentionally trying to influence, intimidate, or impede a witness in a legal proceeding. It includes threatening witnesses, bribing them, offering them benefits in exchange for false testimony or for refusing to testify. It includes using intermediaries to deliver those threats or offers. Basically, anything you do to try to manipulate what a witness says or whether they testify at all is potentially witness tampering. And it's a serious federal crime because the entire justice system depends on witnesses telling the truth. If defendants can manipulate witnesses, then trials can't determine what actually happened. Juries can't make informed decisions. Justice becomes impossible. That's why witness tampering carries such harsh penalties, up to 20 years per count. And courts take it very seriously. Judges don't tolerate defendants who try to manipulate witnesses. They view it as a direct attack on the judicial process itself. So what evidence exists that Trump engaged in witness tampering? According to legal filings and investigative reports, there are several categories of evidence. First, there are communications between Trump's associates and potential witnesses. These communications include messages that appear to be threatening references to what happened to people who cooperated with investigators in the past, reminders about Trump's power and influence, suggestions that testifying against Trump would be career suicide. These messages often came from intermediaries, people who aren't directly employed by Trump but who have connections to his organization. That's a classic witness tampering pattern, use intermediaries, so you have deniability. So you can claim you didn't personally threaten anyone, but prosecutors can still prove witness tampering even when intermediaries are used. They just have to show that the defendant directed or approved the intermediary's actions. Second, there are financial records showing payments to witnesses or their lawyers money transferred at suspicious times, right before scheduled testimony, right after testimony that was favorable to Trump. Payments for legal fees, even though there's no clear reason why Trump would be paying those fees, these financial transactions create a paper trail. They show a pattern of rewarding witnesses who help Trump and punishing those who don't. That's evidence of witness tampering through bribery. Third, there's testimony from witnesses who've reported the tampering to prosecutors. People who came forward and said, I was approached by someone connected to Trump. They offered me money if I would testify a certain way, or they threatened me with consequences if I cooperated with prosecutors. That direct testimony from victims of tampering is incredibly powerful evidence, because it's not just documentary evidence. It's people who experienced the tampering firsthand telling prosecutors exactly what happened. Fourth, there are the pardons Trump issued to people like Paul Manafort and Roger Stone. While pardons themselves aren't illegal, the way Trump used them creates a pattern. Manafort and Stone faced serious criminal charges. They had information about Trump that could have been damaging if they'd cooperated with prosecutors, but they stayed loyal, refused to cooperate, and Trump rewarded them with pardons. That sends a clear message to other potential witnesses: stay loyal and you'll be protected. That pattern of using pardons to influence witness behavior is evidence of a broader obstruction strategy. Judge Ingram's public accusation is based on seeing this evidence. Judges don't make accusations of witness tampering lightly. They don't accuse defendants of crimes in open court unless they have substantial proof. So the fact that Judge Ingram stood up in court and said Trump crossed the line, that there's evidence of witness manipulation that tells you the evidence must be strong, must be clear, must be convincing enough that the judge felt comfortable making such a serious public accusation. The judge's warning about potentially excluding Trump from trial is particularly significant, because that's an extreme sanction. Defendants have a constitutional right to be present at their trials. Courts only override that right in the most serious situations. When defendants are so disruptive or so dangerous to the proceedings that their presence would prevent justice from being done, witness tampering during an ongoing trial could qualify. Because if Trump is actively tampering with witnesses while the trial is happening, his presence is actively obstructing justice. The judge might conclude that the only way to ensure a fair trial is to exclude Trump from the courtroom, to conduct the trial without him present. That would be humiliating for Trump, would show everyone that his conduct was so egregious that he lost the right to attend his own trial, and it would make conviction easier, because Trump wouldn't be there to influence witnesses or intimidate jurors with his presence. The scale of the alleged tampering is also important. This isn't just one or two witnesses. According to prosecutors, Trump's team has been running a coordinated campaign. Multiple witnesses have been contacted. Multiple intermediaries have been used. Multiple types of incentives and threats have been deployed. That coordination shows this wasn't just individual lawyers making mistakes. This was a systematic effort directed from the top. And that level of organization and intent makes the criminal liability much more serious. Prosecutors are arguing for immediate conviction because the evidence is so clear. They're saying we have documentary proof of payments to witnesses, we have testimony from witnesses who were threatened, we have communications showing coordination. We don't need months of trial. The evidence proves witness tampering. The judge should move directly to conviction and sentencing. That's an aggressive prosecutorial strategy. But when the evidence is strong enough, it can work. Judges can accept guilty pleas or proceed to conviction based on stipulated facts if the evidence is overwhelming. The potential for decades in prison is real. If Trump is convicted on multiple counts of witness tampering, the sentences for those counts can run consecutively, meaning they add up. 5 counts of 20 years each would be 100 years total. Obviously, Trump wouldn't serve anywhere near that given his age, but the point is that the criminal exposure is massive. Even if he only got convicted on a few counts and the sentences ran concurrently, he'd still be looking at 10 to 20 years in prison. At his age, that's effectively a life sentence. Legal experts saying life imprisonment is possible aren't exaggerating. The statutory penalties combined with the number of alleged violations create exposure that could result in Trump dying in prison. The connection to Trump's broader pattern of obstruction is significant. Because this isn't the first time Trump has been accused of witness tampering, he's faced similar allegations in other cases. He's been accused of pressuring people not to cooperate with investigations, of dangling pardons, of making threats. That pattern makes the current allegations more credible. Shows this is how Trump operates, how he tries to protect himself from legal accountability. Trump's defense team is in chaos over these allegations. Because witness tampering is very difficult to defend against when the evidence is strong, you can't claim you didn't know it was illegal. Everyone knows you can't threaten or bribe witnesses. You can't claim it was a misunderstanding. The evidence of intent is usually clear. Your only real defense is to claim the evidence is fabricated or that you didn't actually do it. But when there are multiple witnesses, documentary evidence, and financial records all pointing to tampering, that defense becomes implausible. The judge's fast-tracking of penalties means Trump won't have time for his usual delay tactics, won't be able to file endless appeals and motions to postpone consequences. The judge is moving quickly, imposing immediate penalties, and making clear that if the evidence proves what prosecutors allege, conviction will follow swiftly. That's terrifying for Trump, because it means he's facing consequences on a compressed timeline, can't drag things out for years, can't hope that something will change or that witnesses will forget or that evidence will disappear. Justice is moving faster than Trump can manipulate it. Okay, so let's break down what Trump's alleged witness tampering means for his immediate legal jeopardy and his long-term criminal exposure. Point 1. A judge publicly accusing Trump of witness tampering in open court is an extraordinary moment that signals the evidence must be overwhelming. Judges are cautious about making criminal accusations against defendants. They know such accusations can prejudice juries, can affect public perception, can create appeals issues. So they only make those accusations when the evidence is clear and compelling. Judge Ingram didn't just hint at witness tampering, didn't just express concern. She explicitly accused Trump of crossing the line, of engaging in witness manipulation. That tells you she's seen evidence that convinces her Trump committed crimes, and that evidence must be strong enough that she felt comfortable making such a serious public accusation. Point 2. The specific evidence of coded messages, financial payments, and indirect threats creates a prosecutable case with multiple felony counts. Witness tampering isn't just one crime. Each instance of tampering with a different witness is a separate count. Each payment to influence testimony is potentially another count. The evidence prosecutors have compiled apparently shows multiple witnesses were targeted, multiple payments were made, multiple threats were delivered that creates exposure on multiple counts, and each count carries up to 20 years in prison. The cumulative criminal exposure is massive. Even if Trump only got convicted on a fraction of the alleged counts, he'd still be facing decades in prison. Point 3. The judge's threat to exclude Trump from trial shows she's prepared to use extraordinary measures to protect the integrity of the proceedings. Excluding a defendant from their own trial is almost unheard of. It violates traditional notions of defendants' rights to confront witnesses and participate in their defense. But courts have the power to exclude defendants who actively obstruct justice during trial, and Judge Ingram is putting Trump on notice that if he continues tampering with witnesses, she'll use that power. She'll physically remove him from the courtroom. She'll conduct the trial without him present. That's a powerful threat, because it shows Trump that his usual tactics of intimidation and manipulation won't be tolerated, that if he tries to continue influencing witnesses, he'll lose even the right to attend his trial. Point 4. Trump's pattern of using pardons to reward loyalty creates additional evidence of a systematic obstruction strategy. The Manafort and Stone pardons weren't just acts of mercy. They were signals to other potential witnesses. Messages saying, if you stay loyal to Trump, you'll be protected. That pattern of using presidential power to influence witness behavior is itself evidence of obstruction, and it makes the current witness tampering allegations more credible. Shows this is consistent with how Trump operates, how he tries to prevent people from testifying against him. Prosecutors can use those past pardons as evidence of Trump's motive and intent in the current case. Can show a jury that Trump has a history of trying to manipulate the legal process to protect himself. Point 5. The potential for immediate conviction and decades in prison represents Trump's most serious legal jeopardy yet. Trump has faced multiple criminal cases, multiple trials, multiple convictions. But witness tampering charges with strong evidence could result in the longest sentence he's faced, because the statutory penalties are so severe, because the evidence appears so strong, because judges take witness tampering so seriously. This could be the case that actually sends Trump to prison for the rest of his life. So what's the bottom line? Trump has been caught manipulating witnesses. A federal judge publicly accused him of it in open court, said his team crossed the line, that there's evidence of coded messages, financial incentives, and indirect threats designed to influence witness testimony. Prosecutors are arguing this constitutes multiple felony counts of witness tampering, each carrying up to 20 years in prison. The evidence includes communications between Trump's associates and witnesses, financial records showing suspicious payments, testimony from witnesses who reported being threatened or bribed, And the pattern of Trump using pardons to reward loyalty and discourage cooperation, Judge Ingram has warned that she might exclude Trump from trial if the tampering continues. That's an extraordinary threat showing how seriously she takes this, and she's fast-tracking penalties, moving quickly toward potential conviction rather than allowing Trump to delay for months or years. Legal experts are saying Trump could face decades in prison, potentially life imprisonment given the number of alleged violations. That's real criminal jeopardy, real consequences, not just fines or probation, but actual long-term incarceration. The courtroom eruption when the judge made these accusations shows everyone understanding the significance. Trump's lawyers in chaos, prosecutors demanding immediate action, spectators gasping at the drama, because witness tampering is one of the most serious crimes a defendant can commit. It strikes at the heart of the justice system, makes truth-finding impossible, prevents accountability, and Trump allegedly did it systematically, using intermediaries, making payments, delivering threats, all designed to manipulate witnesses and prevent them from testifying truthfully. That's not just one bad decision. That's a coordinated criminal conspiracy to obstruct justice. And if prosecutors can prove it, Trump is facing immediate conviction and the longest prison sentence of his life. This is the moment Trump's witness manipulation caught up with him. The moment when his tactics of intimidation and bribery were exposed in open court. The moment when a judge said publicly that he'd crossed the line into criminal conduct, and the consequences are about to be severe. Immediate conviction is looming. Decades in prison are possible, and Trump has no good defense, because the evidence of what he did is clear. Documentary, testified to by multiple witnesses, proven by financial records and communications. Trump manipulated witnesses, he got caught, and now he's facing the most serious criminal consequences of his life.